I prepare by reading and rereading my submissions and getting everything sort of sorted so I know where it all is on my casebook and using my devices and getting that all sorted. Prepare myself by having a 2-3 page bullet point of my oral opening points that you want to make where you've got the attention of the court. And depending on how I am and what sort of case it is, and look, let's be frank about it, depending on the case and what's at stake and how familiar you feel with it, that adds to your nerves. And if you're super stressed by it, sometimes you just have to write things out, and that gives you comfort and relaxes you. There's no prizes for having a blank sheet of paper and trying to follow what Justice Scalia says, where he says you should have nothing, and then freezing. So I prepare myself by reading it and trying to memorize it, and then as best I can leave my notes and then just deliver it. But if I'm stumbling, I just have to go back to my notes, depending on the topic. And those are just things you just have to have time, make time to do.
So you're at court. You've prepared as much as possible in terms of how you're going to deliver the argument, but of course it doesn't always go that way, and you might get that judicial uppercut. How do you prepare for those difficult questions that can be thrown at you?
You need to anticipate what they might ask. What's your weakness? You should know it. It's no different than being in trial. A lot of lawyers don't seem to. They've got their questions, they know the topics they need to ask, got their questions sort of sorted out in their mind, but they're not prepared for the answer they don't want. If they give me this answer, this is how I'll sort of go. If they give me this answer, this is how I'll respond. And that's the mental process you have to do as you work your way through it. And the same with your submissions. But there's always going to be a time when you just get a question right out of left field. Sometimes you get a question that's not even on point, and you're wondering whether the judge is in the right courtroom. It's in a criminal appeal, right? But the way the judge goes, she's got a point and has her mind, and you just have to deal with it. And if you don't understand it, you have to ask, rephrase it. But you got to be careful there that you're not trying to just avoid the question. So, you just got to prepare for those questions by preparing and not worrying that occasionally something will come out of left field, and that's when it will throw you off your game, won't it? It just happens. Roll with those punches.
I think for me, that's definitely one of the things that worries me the most is guessing a question that I didn't anticipate, or being asked a question where I understand that they're speaking English, but I do not understand what they are saying. Are there any tips that you have where you get that question and you just don't understand it and you don't know how to answer it? Like, what should be the next step that you take?
Well, you just have to be honest, don't you? Because your career and reputation and standing's, bigger than this one case. I remember in the Court of Appeal to this day, but the judge was very kind. I was arguing away, and the judge said, well, that just can't be right. That just doesn't sit with Manasseh. Remember, it's a hearsay case. And I looked at him blankly, and he said, have you read that? Surely you know it doesn't sit with that. And I hadn't read it and didn't know, and just said, look, I'm sorry, I just haven't read it. I don't know. And the judge just sat back and said, well, this is what the case is about. This, it decided this, these are the facts, boom, 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 boom. So that's why I'm saying this. That's the point. Now, it's not a good position to be, but, well, I was going to be exposed pretty sharply. So you just do that. And that's what you'd expect. And that's what our role is, to be up front, and the court will appreciate that.
And do you have any suggestions or techniques for calming your nerves? Because, of course, this is a nerve-wracking experience for many, even those who have lots of experience in it. But how do you calm your nerves, as you arrive to the podium to deliver your oral submissions? And how do you also calm your nerves when you find yourself in that position where something is worrying you and you're anxious about that?
We all get nervous, at least I think we all do. Some people hide it well, and some people just don't seem to. They're just so confident, aren't they? Confident public speakers, confident people, confident in life. You just like, well, how do they do it? But I've seen very experienced lawyers, silks for 10, 20 years, stressed, nervous, wound up, can't sleep at night. But on the other hand, some just seem to deal with it. Just try, everyone says preparation is the key. Preparation. Knowing the material is crucial, and that means you need time. And the problem usually is you just haven't had the time. You've been too stressed or pressured. And so somehow, some way, you have to make the time. And if you've got the good support and you're lucky to have that, and not just work, life-wise, just generally, in those moments where you are stressed, you just have to realise that you're good, that you know the case, that you're entitled to be there. And so within reason, and I'm not very good at following my own advice always, but breathing. And my wife always says to me, breathe, just breathe. And you'll find yourself, you're not breathing. If you seriously think about it, you're so tense. Take a deep breath. Before I get to the podium, I take a big breath and just think to myself, I know this stuff, particularly if you're the trial lawyer and you're like, I know it, right? I mean, I may not know every case in the books, but I know these facts. I know the key cases for this. I'm all over it. And I'm entitled to be here. And if you can say that to yourself, I know it sounds a bit weird in some ways, but if you can say that to yourself, settle yourself down, and then just get in there and enjoy it. We're very fortunate to be able to be doing this sort of work. Debating with judges, fun, should be occasionally, and arrive early, do whatever you have to do. Avoid having lots of water and coffees in the morning and just don't get caught out doing that. And I think too, it's a bit of time in the game. That sounds terrible, but that's just what it's like. And then once you start seeing these judges, whether it's at conferences or maybe from the courses that you're doing, when you see these judges involved in the courses and teaching, that generally speaking, most people are good people. Judges just doing their job. They're humans, they're lawyers, they're like us. Eventually, friends become judges, and they've got their own strengths and failings. And removes the fear, and you just say, back yourself. I can do it. I'm good at this. And you'll be fine.
Thank you for listening to the Advocacy Podcast, Journeys to Excellence. If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe and visit us at theadvocacypodcast.com for reading lists and other resources. Until next time.